Usually reserved, Melania Trump is furious. The woman who wants to be First Lady is taking on several media outlets that she says printed false reports about her personal life. Now Melania is threatening to sue. Les Trent.
Joke. Funny thing to say. He's had a real problem with Elon from the beginning of this. But it's like he's in this leftist... He's in the most leftist thought bubble available, which is Hollywood. And, and I think also, he... famously, there's some videos of him in blackface, and those came out, and he had to apologize for them. And I think he took that hit and really doubled down in the other direction.
Jimmy Kimmel. For the fourth time, Kimmel hosted the Oscars before an adoring crowd of Hollywood stars who laughed and curried favor with the man who wore blackface so many times he's second only to Justin Trudeau in his fondness for the practice. Yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities and it wasn't a big deal.
Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly just transformed Jimmy Kimmel's worst nightmare into primetime comedy gold. After Melania Trump slammed him with a staggering $100 million lawsuit that made no sense, Rogan dissected Kimmel's downfall with brutal, unfiltered honesty, while Megyn shredded his moral grandstanding like a legal brief set ablaze. The man who once mocked others from behind a desk now finds himself center stage. And this time, the punchlines are all aimed squarely at him. If Karma had a laugh track, this moment would be the perfect season finale, complete with dramatic irony and biting humor.
And you need to defend yourself all the time. As you may heard, I file a few lawsuits, and I'm in the court now because they accuse me of doing stuff that I never did in my life. And they wrote lies, and I will not allow that. I will fight till the end because I don't want that they damage my reputation and my name.
Late night comics would come on, and they occasionally would make us laugh, Piers. I mean, occasionally they understood that they were in the game of making everyone laugh. As you know, they've abandoned that game now, and they're just political operatives out there. Colbert, Kimmel, Seth Meyers, who I struggle to even mention that guy's name. He's such an absolute prick.
Joe Rogan didn't ease into it. He came in like a wrecking ball with jiu-jitsu precision and undeniable podcast swagger. The moment the news broke that Melania Trump had filed a $100 million 0-cents lawsuit against Jimmy Kimmel, Joe didn't even blink. He leaned forward, smirked knowingly, and dug in like it was the perfect elk steak in the middle of his carnivore diet. To Rogan, the fact that Jimmy Kimmel, America's most televised virtue signaler, had provoked the former First Lady into launching a $100 million legal thunderclap was beyond comedy. It was pure poetic justice, like watching a court jester getting hit squarely with his own cream pie. The man who had spent the last decade turning late-night TV into a tearful therapy session disguised as satire had finally been met with a resounding enough.
There's not a chance in hell that this is funny or gonna work. And when you see those flat, corny, late-night monologue jokes with no audience, Colbert, there's Jimmy Kimmel, there's Fallon. What they're doing is just like reading off of a teleprompter, so a bunch of really good joke writers wrote them some stuff, and then they're playing to the audience, and the audience is like laughing, so they get this feedback, and they know how to do that. They stand there, and there's applause signs, and then there's producers. There's the warm-up guy that's literally telling people to applaud. They're like, okay, explain to the people. Yeah. Okay, when Jimmy comes out, I want a big round of applause.
Joe started by tracing Jimmy Kimmel's evolution, or rather his devolution. He wasn't always like this. Once upon a time, Jimmy was the kind of guy who cracked jokes, had genuine fun, and didn't take himself so seriously. Now he's become a full-time scold, armed with a teleprompter and a messiah complex. Rogan dubbed it a spiritual makeover, sponsored by celebrity approval, resulting in a smug moralist desperately cosplaying as a comedian, more preacher than punchline and far less entertaining.
For the practice, yes, some of the very same celebrities who wanted you to believe they were horrified after yours truly said in 2018 that people used to don dark makeup in order to imitate well-known black celebrities, and it wasn't a big deal, absolutely ate up the performance by Hollywood darling Mr. Kimmel, whose blackface costumes included his oft-repeated bit as basketball star Karl Malone.
Now, Karl Malone never seen no flying saucer himself, but if he do, that's gonna be a
And let's not forget,
But nothing Joe pointed out was more absurd than Kimmel punching down and calling it activism. The same guy who lectures the entire nation on empathy while mocking Melania's accent. As if that somehow counts as brave or edgy. A first lady who, by the way, has never run for office or held any public power, becomes the relentless target of Kimmel's tired, warmed-over monologues. And when the legal gloves finally come off, Jimmy's team starts screaming about freedom of speech like it's some groundbreaking concept they just discovered yesterday.
Jimmy Kimmel's a loser. I do Jimmy Kimmel. I did him a lot.
Yeah.
And he'd be standing on the sidewalk. Oh, sir, may I bring you in? He'd bring me in every time. The whole show is talking bad about Trump.
He called us doofuses when we had you on.
It's a group of and flat-brimmed hats.
Guess what? We
Ask him how many.
what he did.
Ask him. Yeah, you do bigger. Yeah, you do.
Rogan chuckled at the irony. Here's a guy who hides behind comedy whenever he offends people, but instantly retreats into victimhood the moment someone pushes back. Joe quipped that the only thing thinner than Kimmel's jokes these days is his skin. Melania filed a lawsuit, and suddenly Jimmy's got a whole team of attorneys and emotional support interns drafting statements about how satire is under attack. Then Joe got surgical. He pointed out that in the era of President Trump, yes, again, President Trump, Kimmel had built a career mocking from the safety of a studio, aiming cheap shots at a family that couldn't fight back the way politicians can. And now that Melania's flipped the script with a legal sledgehammer, Jimmy's starting to realize the target can actually swing back hard. Joe didn't blame Melania. He said she'd probably had enough of being the go-to punchline for people who couldn't find an original take, even if it hit them over the head with a cue card. And the fact that this is all happening during Trump's second term just makes the timing that much sweeter. Rogan imagined Jimmy sitting in his office panicking, not about the lawsuit itself, but about the terrifying possibility that someone might have finally outraged him. The man who cried on air to score points as a truth teller was now facing a courtroom truth of his own. Joe didn't just find it funny, he found it righteous. Kimmel, the man who wanted to be America's conscience, was now being called out by the very woman he spent years mocking for a price tag that could buy half of Beverly Hills.
you know how much it costs to produce Jimmy Kimmel's show? I guarantee you it's tens and tens of millions. It could be as much as 100 million. I have no idea. You know how much Tucker's video cost? Nothing. You know how much Jimmy Kimmel, how many people he gets tuning in on an average night? Just last week, his average was, in the overall, meaning all viewers, 1.5 million. In the key demo, 236,000. Tucker would have been embarrassed to pull that on any night he was on the Fox News channel. We're 3 times what Jimmy Kimmel gets. And Tucker's little basement video that he did from clearly like his cabin that he broadcast out of Maine in literally has 21 million views. Okay? 21 million views. Whereas, as I point out, on ABC, a massive network that comes into your home for free, that you have to make no effort to find, at best, Jimmy Kimmel can get 1.5 million. He needs to have a little self-perspective before going out there and hurling these insults because he looks a...
Then came Megyn Kelly, polished, unbothered, and fully loaded. She didn't just walk into the story. She stepped onto the stage like a seasoned prosecutor who had been patiently waiting years for this exact moment. Jimmy Kimmel wasn't just fair game anymore. He was an open and exposed case. And Megyn delivered a closing argument so sharp it would leave no jury unconvinced. She began by calling out the hypocrisy. Jimmy Kimmel, once the man-child of late-night television, was now hiding behind a cloak of justice, principles, and all the grandiose words he thinks sound noble when read aloud in front of a studio audience. But when you peel back the layers, Megyn said, it's all just performance. Kimmel doesn't care about the truth. He cares about applause. And as long as the applause keeps coming, he'll happily throw anyone under the bus. Megyn made it personal, not about herself, but about how Kimmel built an entire career belittling Melania Trump, painting her as some foreign accessory with no agency or intelligence. And yet, here she was, flipping the chessboard and filing a lawsuit so financially terrifying it could make Jimmy go from Hollywood elite to used Prius salesman overnight. Megyn mocked Kimmel's fake bravery. He styles himself as the brave voice of reason, the guy who speaks truth to power, except the power he chooses to speak to is a mother and former model who spent 8 years being judged not for her policies, but for her outfits and accents. Megyn said, "If that's courage, then tweeting in all caps must be a revolutionary act."